Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back. This is the obligatory Led Zeppelin video. I don't think I've gotten more requests of doing a video on any other artist than Led Zeppelin. It's an obvious choice. I will say I am a fan of Led Zeppelin, but I'm not a expert on Led Zeppelin. But I do have a story, and I'll showcase my Led Zeppelin collection. But this came about now because of several years of requests, but also the other day, we were talking on a live stream about our favorite bands of all time. And of course, my top three are the Beatles, the Byrds, and the Kinks. Those two second and third acts, Change Order, and several others. And I think a lot of people, or a handful of people, were citing Led Zeppelin as one of their favorite bands, which is fine. And I think I rattled off nonchalantly, Led Zeppelin wouldn't even make my top 10. And they were shocked, horror, that Led Zeppelin is not in my top 10 all time of bands. I don't even know where they are in that. But let me talk about my story, because my story obviously is relevant, I think. Obviously to me it is, and to you, that's for you to judge. Because I was there in that time. This is obviously my generation. Their first album came out in 1969. And I did see Led Zeppelin 3 times. And I didn't even see my number one band at all, the Beatles. I never saw the Beatles. So it's kind of ironic that a band that's not even my top 10, I saw 3 times. And as I was thinking about those 3 shows in San Francisco and in Oakland in the 1970s, it occurred to me out of the blue that all 3 shows were day shows. I never saw Led Zeppelin in the evening, and they should be the perfect night band. I'll get into the concerts in a little bit, but obviously you all know the history of Led Zeppelin. I'm going to go through these records pretty quickly and not get into detail, because there are definitely more people that have more knowledge of the music, of the history, and this is not a history lesson. This is a personal take from my point of view on Led Zeppelin. So I get this in the first month it came out at Tower Records, San Francisco, Columbus, and Bay. I love this record. I would say, well, it's a fact that this is my favorite Led Zeppelin. This is the Led Zeppelin album that I grabbed. This is my go-to album by them. I think it's far superior than all the other albums. Obviously, heavy Zeppelin fans will, have their own take and disagree with that. But, babe, I'm going to leave you. You shook me dazed and confused. The bass on that. What I like about this record, I think this record has the best dynamics of every record. I'm not talking about audiophile dynamics, but just there's a wonderful range in here of acoustic sounds, of mood, beautiful solos, and crashing intensity. Great vocals, the entire band just really comes together. And this is unique in so many ways. But let me just kind of go backwards a little bit. This came out several years ago, and this is Yardbirds 68. And this is when the Yardbirds were kind of splitting up, and Jimmy Page really took hold of this band and took center stage of this band. And they became the new Yardbirds for a very short time. And this was really the genesis of Led Zeppelin. This was put out by Jimmy Page several years ago. And it has some demo bits, some works in progress, and then a live concert at the Anderson Theater. So studio sketches, when you play that, you hear really the genesis of Led Zeppelin, the music of Led Zeppelin. Just a beautiful, beautiful set with a wonderful, wonderful book in here. So the new Yardbirds begat Led Zeppelin. In America, they're signed to Atlantic Records, and just blow the roof off the sucker, literally. Now, I got all these records within a week after they came out. All the Led Zeppelin records I continued to buy to the very end. But in 1995, when I purged a third of my vinyl collection, Led Zeppelin records went away. And my logic at that time, big mistake, yes, but my logic was that time that CDs are the better format. Theoretically, that's what we were told. And this is what I eventually would get in terms of my Led Zeppelin collection. This is the full studio catalog. And I like it. I quite like it. Now, I'm not getting into here in terms of audiophile or pressings and what pressings I get. That's not what this video is about. This is a personal take on my Led Zeppelin journey, if you will. 2 copies of Led Zeppelin 2 RL. This is the Robert Ludwig famous cut. This is a noisy as hell version. The better version I sold to someone else who's more of a Led Zeppelin fan than I am. But this is that RL. It does sound fantastic. I've cleaned it several times, but it is a noisy copy. That's why these records go for so much money now, up to $600, $700, $800 in some cases, depending on condition, because people want that copy and they want that mix, that Robert Ludwig mix. This is a copy. This is interesting. This is the Classic Record copy. Classic Record was the audiophile label, and in the 2000s, was it 2005-ish? I'm not sure exactly. They put out this series. When I moved to Seattle, the first record fair I went to, I saw this copy in the bin. This is when I was trying to build up my vinyl collection again, 2014, maybe 2015 or so. And I saw this copy there and I looked at it, and I didn't look that close, and I think they wanted $60 for it, and I actually offered $40, and the guy says, sure. I bought this for $40, bring it home. This turned out to be the Classic Record. This goes for some money now in the several hundreds, I think. Classic Records released the entire catalog on 33 and on 45. This is a 33. Some years later, several years ago, my friend Coffee Dave, I found out he had the Classic Records Led Zeppelin Anvil case that had the entire catalog, one-sided 45 RPM. That must be the most obscene indulgence. I had it in my possession for 6 months, and I helped him sell it. We sold it for $9,500. It's here in the picture. You can see what it looked like. It's basically a beautiful footstool. And it's that overkill. And I listened to it once, and I didn't love it. I thought it was bright. I thought the mixes were bright. And I like this, but it's not my favorite by a long shot. So the Classic Records, some people swear by them. Obviously, Led Zeppelin 3. This is an early UK copy with the spinning wheel. I love this record. I mean, I just love Dire Mak'er. This, to me, is one of my favorites of the Led Zeppelin records. Of course, Led Zeppelin 4 with Stairway to Heaven. I have a hype sticker. These are copies that I picked up. This was a notched copy, promo, overpressing, whatever. I have no idea. It sounds fine, but I don't reach for this album. Again, I reach for the first album most of the time. In fact, this record is exhausting to me. I can't listen to Black Dog. I can't listen to Stairway to Heaven. Misty Mountain, that's about it, When the Levee Breaks. Now, going to California, I do obviously have a soft spot on that for a lot of reasons. But it's not a record I pull out a lot. Now, this is cool. This has a hype sticker, so I did leave a shrink. I found this several years ago. Again, another notch copy. What's that about? Promo? Overpressing. These sold a lot. I don't think they were ever in a cutout bin. So it's probably a record label giveaway, but I decided, of course, the great covers by Hypnosis, but that again is another story. Now, Kashmir is also one of my all-time favorite songs, Led Zeppelin, and I do like Physical Graffiti. I think it's not a great sounding record though, but I quite like it. You know, this building in New York City with the pull-out cover. And the last few albums I really got just because I feel I had to complete and continue to get Led Zeppelin, but I never really got deep into them. Obviously, we got Presence with this amazing cover art. I'll get into this in a bit. This is the later remaster series that Jimmy Page put out in 2016. I want to talk about that too. We have In the Outdoor. Obviously, most of you people know there were a lot of different covers on this, variations. Someone else can talk about more in detail. And the posthumous record, Coda. And this is really made up of a lot of alternate versions, outtakes, unreleased material. After John Bonham died, this is Coda. So let's talk about Led Zeppelin in San Francisco. Led Zeppelin first played in San Francisco at the Fillmore in January 1969, but they weren't the headliners. Their first album, that first album had just come out or was released at the time. So they really didn't have a huge following yet in America. And that album actually came out in America, I think 2 months before it came out in the UK. So they played the Fillmore, Bill Graham's Fillmore West, actually, on Market Street. Opening was Taj Mahal. The second act was Led Zeppelin. And the headliner was Country Joe and the Fish. Basically psychedelic East Bay jug band music. And I love Country Joe and the Fish. Their Electric Music for the Mind and Body, their debut, is probably the best psychedelic San Francisco album of that time, of the known bands of that period. It's just really a wonderful record. And I can just imagine Led Zeppelin playing and then Country Joe and the Fish coming on after this set. Obviously, I didn't see it. In April 1969, they played 2 shows at the Fillmore West again and 2 shows at Winterland. And opening was Julie Driscoll and Brian Auger and the Trinity. I did not see that. They played Berkeley Community Theater in September 1971 for 2 nights. I wish I had seen it. That's a sit-down theater, so I'm really curious. It's almost more of a, I wouldn't call it posh, but it's more, it's more traditional in a way on the Berkeley High School campus, actually. I saw so many wonderful shows there, but seeing Led Zeppelin in that venue would have been so cool. It's not a great big theater, and the sights, the view in every seat is just wonderful. It's not like Winterland where it's an open ice capade rink. The Fillmore, that's an old ballroom. So now a brief history of my experience seeing Led Zeppelin live. It commences in June of 1973 at Kezar Stadium in Golden Gate Park, San Francisco. San Francisco, Kezar was a stadium that's on the edge of Golden Gate Park, adjacent to the Haight-Ashbury, near the inner Sunset. And it was a home for years for the San Francisco 49ers. And it wasn't a great football stadium. And the 49ers moved eventually to share a ballpark, Candlestick Park, with the San Francisco Giants baseball team. It's infamous in very many other ways, though. It was used as a location in the film Dirty Harry, where the Scorpio, the killer, is holding out when Clint Eastwood comes and gets him. That is Kezar Stadium. That was filmed at Kezar. During the Loma Prieta earthquake in 89, it was damaged, torn down. There's a more kind of a modern, smaller scale outdoor stadium there. They do have some shows, but it's mostly for high school sports and special events and things there. So it's more of a condensed version of it now. But I don't remember a lot about the show. I remember Led Zeppelin came on an hour and a half late. Opening up was Roy Harper, who did a folk set. Wasn't well received. And then it was the Tubes, the local band, the Tubes, that were really just getting going. Also, right after that was Lee Michaels, the organ player, piano player. He was sort of past his peak in sales. He was on A&M, switched to Columbia Records. And then, of course, Led Zeppelin. Came on an hour and a half late. There are photographs around of Robert Plant holding a white dove on stage and Jimmy Page in his white suit. I remember really enjoying the show, but didn't love the sound of the show where I was. I was pretty far back. It's an enclosed outdoor stadium. So seeing Led Zeppelin after Houses of Holy came out, and the first time they played San Francisco since Led Zeppelin 4 came out, and seeing those songs, it was enjoyable. But again, it didn't speak to me. It was not anywhere close to amongst the best shows, the best rock shows I've ever seen, but obviously historic in so many ways. I'll soon get to the 1977 Day on the Green shows that I saw. But first I want to kind of take a little detour and go back into the vinyl series, go back into the music series and the CD series, and talk about this series. This is the beginning of the series that Jimmy Page put out. His vision of the Led Zeppelin, his archive of what his record should look like and sound like in 2016. These are controversial to some because these are digital cuts. People want that all analog, like classic record plates, and and have them cut like that. And there was some discussion about this. I'm not going to get into all the details about each one, but I quite like these records. Now, if you're A-Bing these records and you're getting in the weeds and going into detail, but you know, you put these records on and blast them, they sound friggin' great. Now, some better than others. I'd say Led Zeppelin 3 might be the best, but I actually like this one. But I'm gonna tell you something. What I like about them, I like the consistency. I mean, I always hate to compare things to other artists, but the Beatles have been putting out this archive remix series. Well, now, I'm not gonna debate right here the remixes of those, but the boxes, the format, the design style, they're all different. They don't really fit together. And if you're gonna do an archive of your band and really kind of, you know, the legacy of the music and the visual styles and the great artwork of a band, this is a fantastic way to do it. These are clamshell cases. And what you have here, you have the proper album. Again, my favorite Led Zeppelin album. But what you also have here, you have a separate album of companion audio. And they do an opposite, they do like a negative style of visualization on the covers. In this case, you have Alive in Olympia at the Olympia in Paris, France in 1969, which is really wonderful. But this, doing the opposite, you don't get confused that it's the same album. Now, obviously, this is a live. In this case, this is a live album, so it's a different take that I'm going to talk about here. But you know how these Beatles remixes came out? There's no identifying change. So if you get a copy of the original Abbey Road and you get the remix of Abbey Road, it doesn't say, unless you look close at the date, that it's a remix. There should be a change in the cover to distinguish that this is not the original intent of the artist. It's okay to have an option, but change the cover somehow. So I love that Hypnosis, who put this together with Jimmy Page's approval and overseeing of it, did this great thing. It also, these have these wonderful booklets of the history of the album, which includes posters of shows and events, articles, reviews, features, worksheets of the album. These are a stunning archive. This is a wonderful series of records. They also include numbered lithos of the cover. 30,000 copies were made of each of these. And in this case, there's a Led Zeppelin, like a Atlantic reproduction of a promo PR kit. And then, of course, in this case, the CDs here. I have other CDs, so I haven't even opened these CDs at this point. But I like these. I think these were good value. I think they were like $100, $110, $120 when they came out in 2016. So we're like 8 years now down the line since I'm recording it. So we got the proper album. We got, obviously, Led Zeppelin 2. I won't go through each one in detail, but this is what I'm talking about. Having the yin-yang, the negative, positive cover art. In this case, you have companion audio. You have rough mixed with vocals of songs. Moby Dick backing track. Heartbreaker rough mix with vocal. Ramble On rough mix with vocal. So you get outtakes, and it distinguishes the proper album to the alternative version of the album. Now, it's not alternative version in terms of all the music work. And of course, I love the art on this. I just love how this looks, how beautiful, artistic that is. In this case, you have the proper wheel, the full wheel. You have, again, your negative art, dark, light, chiaroscuro lighting. You got your lithograph again, 30,000 copies. And again, a wonderful folio. News articles, photographs, posters. Just a great archive. I would be fine with just having this series as my only vinyl Led Zeppelin. I don't need any other versions. The RL is a nice addition, but aside from that, I have no problem with these series. Led Zeppelin 4, Houses of the Holy. Let's take a look at that one. again, look at this. And Physical Graffiti. Now, the others came out too after Physical Graffiti, but I decided that I wasn't going to get those, and I just went with the albums without the box. They did come out as separate editions. In this case, you have the cover and the negative. So you have a double record, expanded, 2 single sleeves, but double records expanded. So I'd opt not to get the box on the last few records on this. So the last segment here, I want to talk about Led Zeppelin's final shows in America. July 23rd and 24, Oakland Coliseum, Days on the Green. This is a reproduction of the ads that were in the Sunday paper for Bill Graham, all the shows he was doing. For instance, you got Oakland Coliseum, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You have Greek Theater, Dave Mason, Kenny Loggins. You have Winterland, the Dictators and the Ramones and the Nuns. You got Chris Christopherson, Rita Coolidge, Billy Swan. You got Jackson Browne in this section and so on. Kiss, Cheap Trick. That's the only time I ever saw Kiss. Kiss and Cheap Trick, August 16th, 1977. And of course, Led Zeppelin and Rick Derringer. Now, that show also had Judas Priest. So I saw Judas Priest, Rick Derringer, and Led Zeppelin, Day on the Green, July 23rd, July 24th. Outdoor, it's a baseball stadium in Oakland. Again, seeing Led Zeppelin in the daylight. So I ended up going to the show with my girlfriend Nancy in 1977. Nancy was a disc jockey at KSAN Radio. She did the 10 to 2 a.m., 10 p.m., 2 a.m. Saturday and Sunday night shift. So we were able to go in this VIP section, which is not with the artist, but it was a section with radio and record people. And it was like a built-up side section on like another stage, to the side of the stage back a little bit. So we would look sort of down to the side of the stage and fairly close to it. But that's where we watched the entire show, both days. These were tempestuous shows. And again, these were seeing Led Zeppelin in the daytime. It was great. It was a hot day, summer in the East Bay. What I recall, they sounded great. I enjoyed this show much better than I enjoyed the Kezar show several years earlier. Historically, looking back now, we've heard that the 1977 tour was a tempestuous tour, ending in Oakland. It wasn't supposed to be the end of the tour, but it became the final 2 shows of Led Zeppelin in America. And what happened was, after that first night, after that first show, there was an incident. Peter Grant, the tempestuous manager of Led Zeppelin, they had basically a British mob guy, head of security for Zeppelin. Peter Grant's son was removing a poster or removing a sign, and one of Bill Graham's people kind of slapped him down or something. And John Bonham saw this. This is after the show, and went to Peter Grant and everything. And Peter Grant and his associates with John Bonham went into the trailer where these Bill Graham people, and beat the crap out of one or more of Bill Graham crew members. And of course, Bill Graham was furious. They kind of settle things to do the show the next day. And again, I saw the next day. I don't remember any specifics musically, so I'm not going to talk about the music, although I remember really enjoying it. And I had a great time 2 days in a row seeing Led Zeppelin. After that second show, Bill Graham called the police. John Bonham, Peter Grant, and I think 2 others were arrested, booked down, mugshots taken. They did some kind of settlement eventually, and they left the country. And after that show, unfortunately, word came about that Robert Plant's son had died in the UK, and the tour was canceled. So they didn't finish the tour. I think they had 4 or 5 cities left. That was the last show. I saw the final 2 shows that Led Zeppelin ever played in San Francisco. And then, of course, a number of years later, John Bonham would die and Led Zeppelin would be no more. So I accidentally saw their last show. I saw 3 there. I don't know if they did any other day shows ever. I don't know. Some Led Zeppelin person will know the details there. But that was my experience with Led Zeppelin. I love Led Zeppelin, but again, they're not one of my top 10 favorite bands. I love their music. I go to that first album. I love that I saw them when I did. In those days, we didn't think of how special this was. It always seemed like there'd be another tour, another time to see these wonderful bands. I do wish I saw that band at the Fillmore when they opened up for Country Joe and the Fish. I would like to see that dynamic difference between Led Zeppelin and Country Joe on stage. Lastly, two other CDs I have, the complete BBC sessions and How the West Was Won, this live set. There are so many others I can go. I'm not an all-in completist on Led Zeppelin, although by looking at my collection, I think I'm pretty deep in. And I do realize what an important band they are historically, musically, and how they really changed up music and rock and roll and heavy music and heavy metal, leaning into that. So thanks for watching. That's my obligatory Led Zeppelin video coming to a close. Thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.